So, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this month's Divaan Ishq, where the theme will be peaceful conflict resolution. And probably both for the collective and the individual consciousness right now, it's a timely topic and probably always is a timely topic, but especially now I think we benefit from reminding ourselves that there is a way to navigate things, situations, when we are of differing opinions or when we see things from different perspectives in a way that does not involve violence. And even on a larger scale, I think every great saint or seer has basically stated that it has to start from the individual level when we want to change something. So I'm actually at the moment doing a course in another place, and there was someone who mentioned something called nonviolent communication. And I thought even that was kind of a pointer at looking into what is conflict resolution that doesn't involve getting aggressive or defensive, but rather looking at the matter that is to be resolved in a kind of state of neutrality or openness, or maybe love sometimes is even too much to demand, but just not, picking up a sword straight away. So I'm equally open to learn from whatever you all have to offer on this topic, and definitely cannot call myself an expert. I'll bring in what little I gathered from this nonviolent communication method, which actually the term is kind of a coined phrase by a psychologist. So I can go in a bit about that, but also maybe first I just like to hear if it resonates with you and maybe your experiences, because for me personally, I feel like I have not been taught growing up how to navigate conflicts in a peaceful way. It's either a timid where you kind of back off and you let someone just run over you, or it's like meet aggression with aggression. And then neither of those feel really like constructive solutions. So yeah, open floor if anyone has anything you want to share.
Mm, I can share a bit. um, I'm also familiar with NVC, with the nonviolent communication. I also have a friend who's like a facilitator in that. I think my thing is that I'm very conflict avoidant. Um, I think growing up with separated parents, yeah, I'm just like always wanting there to be harmony and really sort of self-sacrificing in order not to be in a situation of direct confrontation and conflict. So, and I actually also recently had a conflict with my neighbor here, where I felt quite violated in my trust and privacy. And yeah, it was like, yeah, from reflections from people close to me that I realized that I was also not, yeah, holding my ground in a way that I was, yeah, that sometimes it's also good to really be clear about where, yeah, to also really let someone know that you're not okay with it. And I think I do that in like a peaceful way, but I think my tendency is to also let it pass too quick, and then yeah, actually at my own cost in a way. So I think this has been like a topic that's been present for me, like how to also like be responsible for my own person in the situation. like to care for that as well, instead of like immediately jumping to everything being okay and there being harmony, kind of. That's it.
I think I can say that in the household I grew up was like we were living in a joint family system when I was young, and the both the families were at clash, and my parents and my siblings, they were young and they had very introverted nature. So being the eldest one, I was always on a defensive mode. I mean, I could let things go for myself, but I knew I could not let go on behalf of my parents or on behalf of my siblings. So that was, I really had to be the watchdog, you can say. And that is where I learned, to. So I started off by being someone who's just defensive, and later on, I that became a strength, and that led me into the debates. But I realized that when it came to personal relations, or then I suffered because then I didn't know how to cool it off or not being defensive. Didn't I didn't know how to not have a conversation and not be watchful that okay, it's just going to stay calm, and it's not going to be an attacking situation. So, and I really had to cultivate that softness. But then it was more of developing, like letting go situations, then, learning to communicate non-violently. I think that's something that we learn over time, but it's very difficult. It had been very difficult for me to switch to a softer side. So that was for my side. Thank
Um, I used to be also very aggressive when I was younger. Like I had a lot of anger and my heart would beat fast and I can't, I don't know what I'm saying, and then the other person would be yelling at me. Then I changed and I'm afraid that I'm gonna create a problem because the other person would comment on my overreactions. Like I could get aggressive, I could push the person, like without really thinking about what I was doing. Like, yani, I don't know, maybe because I used to be like that also from with my siblings without really knowing. And I had a roommate, and then that's when I realized how yani unconscious I am when I get angry. I just blurt things out. And then I think I'm trying to really understand my relationship with weed. So I'm gonna just, like then I started depending on weed to just calm me, like not really get me frustrated and just letting things pass by. And then and now like and then I started apologizing for feeling violated, like apologizing for the other person because I feel like I'm violated. Like I'm sorry you made me feel this way, instead of saying, okay, you're wrong. What they did was wrong, and we shouldn't have been in this situation or something. And then now it feels like I'm trying not to apologize for يعني صح, focus on the situation, don't focus on the person's characteristics, like focus on what happened and stuff. And like and try to understand your triggers and try to see your, you know, say I feel this way because this I'm, you know, and say this is my perspective and try to give them room to share their perspective and things. But what I find hard is not apologizing and not worrying that things could go wrong. You know, like sometimes I don't know, like I don't know anything, but I feel like if there's conflict, there is a chance that there may not be a resolution. And I feel like when we focus so much on the resolution, like finding resolution, it might like, I might be wrong. It might compromise how honest we are about everything we want to say, you know, just because we want things to be resolved. So, yeah, guidance would help. Thank you.
I mean, if anyone has guidance on that, then, you know, by all means, open up, because I think that is tricky topic. And I also think there's a lot of baggage. I actually even talked with my mom, who's here in the background, yesterday, about how like the good girl programming gets also in the way of being like authentically present in a conflict or a confrontation. Like there's so much maybe fawning, or like you said, you know, we start apologizing for, you know, feeling offended even. And then like from there, how do we find some sort of grounding and like our actual authentic standpoint? So it's so much to unpack. And I think also now that like the whole kind of somatic work scene is getting more noticed and people are learning more about their nervous systems and stuff, there's also there, you know, for example, for myself, I'm seeing how just like physically conflict affects and like shuts down the body, shuts down the brain, makes like everything just like there's a blockage in like on a physical level in the system when it starts to go into a certain loop. So I guess it's a very multifaceted kind of thing to start working with. And also, I don't know, Noor, if you're in a place where you can't talk, but if you want to say something, then by all means. And if not, then of course that's totally fine as well. And I was thinking maybe Alex, if you've been actually working with the NVC. Oh, Noor, now you're back there. In a few, I'll go through like just a very sort of ABC of NVC, but you're, you know, feel free to fill in when if you've actually it, because I'm just, you know, I'm starting to, you know, just check it up and see what there is. But yeah, Noor, go ahead.
Assalamualaikum. I'm
Salam.
coming alive right now. I'm reading this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I guess everybody in the world read it but me. So it came to me, it reached me, alhamdulillah. And I'm actually on a part right now about arguments. And he said, do not disagree with anyone. And I am, when I am talking to someone, I get anxiety. And once I get triggered, I start shooting. And the other person starts running. And then I'm coming after them. So, and I'm realizing every conversation feels so heavy. And it's like, why are your conversations heavy? I'm going to say because I'm either trying to fix the problem, like I got the solution for you, do this, or they're saying something and I am denying their story. So even if they're saying something really bad about themselves, I'm like, no, don't say that. No, it's not like that. No, it's okay. No, you're not that. And so I'm resisting, and either I'm resisting, and that's what the book says. Don't resist, don't debate, and do not argue. It was one more. And it's kind of like agree with the other person. And I tested it out. I tested it out with someone I talked to, like often, where I realized, okay, like it's always a fight or always back and forth. And I just started agreeing with everything. I didn't deny a single thing they felt or thought. And when that happened, the person started opening up, so you disarm them. And that happens with me when people do that with me when I'm going crazy. So they got disarmed. And before you knew it, people are laughing, smiling, making jokes. So I'm also going through something right now. And I am trying to also basically attack. And the book is also saying kind of the first instinct that you have, do not do, and not saying do not, but try to, I have it right here. Try not to do your first instinctual impression. Like whatever the first thing you want, which I do every time. When I want to shoot, it's shot. So the first blast, like hold that in and then wait a little bit, agree with what's going on, and then what you need to say will come out. So this is probably day 1 or day 2, but just not running after like anything. I think, yeah.
Can I share something? Noor, can I share about our conflict and how it went down?
Let me put my face real quick.
because it taught me a lot بصراحة. Okay, cool. Okay. So of course يعني my connection is unstable, but it really helped because like يعني نور I'm يعني okay. Okay. Like we were supposed to meet, and then sometimes we're ignorant of other people's situations. يعني I have a privilege. يعني I'm privileged in ways that other people aren't privileged. Say things. Okay. خلاص. Can you hear me? Okay. So then is it okay, Noor?
It's okay. It keeps breaking. It keeps, but go ahead. It just keeps chopping up.
Okay.
تفضلي.
So I wasn't very, sometimes our communication, like we're not having clear communication is very important. We were supposed to meet, and then I said I was going to change the plans last minute, but she had a lot of things going on, so she thought I changed the plans. But I'm very insensitive because I don't know what she went through to try to come to where I was in the state that I was in. And she has a lot of things going on, and she was getting out of her way to come my way. So of course, she got angry at me, but and I had to hear things about me that were very hard. But because Noor is a sister, I wasn't gonna like explode on her. Like I was gonna take it in, like, okay, she's mirroring something in me, that I'm probably not seeing. And then it took a few days, and we were in conflict. Like it didn't get resolved in a while. Like we had to give space to each other. And then she saw that I wasn't seeing something from her perspective because of homeless people, and it's that was a trigger for her. So when she saw that I lacked an understanding, she came back to me and tried to educate me for my lack of understanding from seeing things the way she sees things. So I feel in conflict, there's space that needs to be given for both parties. Yani, we can't sit on a table and have a discussion, then think we're going to resolve the issue in the same time. Like things do take, and we may hear things about ourselves that we do not see, like we have blind spots. So I feel it takes like also kind of an acceptance of seeing yani that we are faulty, and people, and this conflict is going to tell me something about me that I don't know about myself. So I feel if you really want to resolve a conflict, we have to be like, I think that was how you started. You were saying individual conflict. So I guess really we have to be willing to accept, things we don't see within ourselves. That I was grateful for that. Alhamdulillah.
It's just so like lovely seeing, two people like laughing about a conflict, and talking about it afterwards. And yeah, I guess, it is just something that's been around. I don't know, Alicia or Khadija, who just came on, do you have anything you want to share?
Khadija, if you don't mind, I'll just like butt in. I'm actually at a lawyer's office to prepare my mom for some court case on Monday. So I'm in like the heart of conflict resolution to some degree. And first, I just want to acknowledge Alex's presence here. This is our first time having her here. So ahlan wa sahlan, salam and peace. Lovely to have your presence and welcome to the Divaan. Yeah, so do I have anything to say? I had a nice trigger attack the other day, and this is not my usual, and you guys have known me for like years. So yeah, and I don't know what to say, but before the lawyers come back, I just thought I would just interject to say that it's good to be vulnerable. It's good to have a paradigm that we don't know it all. And technically, even in the most heated situation, there's always like, you're wrong, clearly. And it's easier to react than to respond. But it's also nice to acknowledge when we can be reactive or we may be wrong. And that really helps dissolve and just bring out our human side to us, even with the person we're having a conflict with or the parties. And that really, because it's a lot of the conflict is because of our ego. And when that is lowered and toned down, then we will see resolution. So there's, for resolution, there is an element of vulnerability and acknowledging that, what, I'm totally like off. So I had to admit the other day, I was very happily admitting it, that, what, everything that I did was probably ego-based. And I was in reaction mode. I was hurt. I'm not going to make myself feel like, I did something odd. I was actually hurt. And hurt is something connected to our ego because of attachments. And that's it. So, yeah. And I think it's important, if we are witnesses to holding, in a situation where there is a conflict, that we actually truly embody the quality of compassion and empathy, kind of even if we're not trying to solve anything, but just to kind of get into the heart space of what the parties are going through, to acknowledge that, yes, to acknowledge their hurt rather than just try to correct. This is another trigger, and it doesn't usually help, especially when the person is hurt. So all these things are required. And do I have anything further to say? Not at the moment. Yeah. I'm complete.
I'm not sure if you were here on the call when Noor was talking about the book that she read. Did you jump on then already? No, because it's basically, I was thinking that, because I heard you say the same thing while this trigger episode was going on, and we actually were in conflict as well, also for probably 3 days or something. So this very thing that Noor, you mentioned about the book you're reading, which I guess can be also like borderline, I don't know, it felt like almost, it can be used also to just I guess be manipulative if you're just like, wanting to de-escalate something or, win people's favor. But it's actually exactly what you said to me, which is like, don't argue in the first place, just validate what's going on. Just, can you like validate my emotion, my hurt? And then, that neutralizes everything. And from there, when everyone's calmed down, you can actually even like start to build something constructive, because there's no point like I definitely, will try to take that into consideration for the future in any like heated situations, because I can be very mind-based and very sort of solution-driven. So when someone comes and it's like, this and this and this is happening, and then I'll be like, yeah, here is, can you see, here's the way out. And then it's like, you're not taking into consideration all of this emotion. And that should be first, just like, yeah, okay, whew, I see you. That's a lot you're going through. And then when we've dealt with that, we can move further. And usually probably that solution comes by itself. I don't need to like point that out, like trying to act like someone who has the answer, because usually the person does that themselves. So that was a really valuable lesson, and interesting to hear it like 2 times now in different ways.
Yeah, actually, what you're saying is reminding me of this methodology that I did a few trainings in called system-centered training. And it's like it's a sort of methodology for groups and group dynamics, and to sort of learn how to act for the benefit of the whole. And there are like some sort of simple rules that you do whenever you are, like it's a whole thing, but like one of the simple things you do whenever you start sharing or saying something, building on the person before you start saying your own thing, you always repeat what the person before you said, and you really try to like give it back to them in their words, and also really with your heart, or with your like the way that you're like connecting to the words as well. And especially if there's like a divide or like a difference, like or like you're kind of in a different place, whatever topic you're talking about doesn't have to be a conflict situation. But I noticed that in conflict situations, I sometimes start doing this, even if the person doesn't know that I'm doing it, because it sort of helps. And it's kind of what you say, you try to basically repeat back to the person what they have been telling you, and also with the quality, like, oh, I hear that you're saying this and this and this, I hear that it's affecting you in this way, like, and then did I miss anything? You can always ask it, is there something that I didn't get? And it's really interesting because like when you do this, especially if you do it in both directions, you start realizing that very often there's also just like a mismatch of perspective, that we are just so stuck in our own perspective and our own version of the story that actually we are not even listening when the other person is talking, because we're already in our own story about whatever is going on or whatever the other person is saying. And then when you do this, it really makes you, in a way, before you go back into your own story, to really connect and really listen to the other person. And that already creates like a different, the other person feels heard, and also you realize that there is more than one perspective like to the situation. And what you were saying was kind of reminding me of that.
Yeah, that's, I guess, so valuable to just make sure we're on the same page before we move further, because I think for me, when I'm seeing what happens if I don't feel heard, that's when, I start to amplify the message either in like volume or attack. And I notice that happens, usually with the other party as well. If I'm not kind of acknowledging, embracing, receiving that message, then, it's like you're not hearing me, so I'll have to say it louder. I'll have to say it clearer. And then both parties are just shouting their version from across the room. And that's exactly what I felt, and I looked it up. Yeah, exactly. So that Alex reminds me of something. I don't remember who said that they were doing this exercise. For some reason, I remember Madiha saying it. It could also be something else. But, this exercise where you're sitting with another person, and you're basically one only has the right to talk and the other one is only supposed to listen. And then you do that for some time, and then you swap roles. But during that time, it's like you really don't have any responsibility of responding. The only thing you're doing is just taking it in. Or if you're talking, you don't have to take into consideration that the other one should share. And I think we're so also conditioned to be solution driven, and I guess also afraid of just maybe negative or uncomfortable emotions, that there's always like some sort of eagerness to, put a band-aid over it or like fix it. And then there's not usually enough time to just like sit and bask in the something that we get told by someone else. And Khadija, by all means, if you also want to share something related to this, unmute or write something in the chat if you feel like. But Alex, I really appreciate that tip. I'm gonna think about that also for the future. And sometimes I guess these methods can feel like, to me, that I get sort of almost scared that, like I mentioned earlier, that it's like becoming some form of, manipulative kind of thing, and I'm becoming very calculative or something. But maybe it's more a question of finding, I don't know, new patterns, new ways to function, instead of like, if the old is working, then good. Maybe, maybe there are people who had a different kind of environment growing up, or different methods they learned to communicate with. But I definitely feel some of mine are not fully where I wish them to be. So thanks, Khadija. Yes, please.
Maybe I can just share something else. Because actually, like, my issue is not that I get overheated or that I get like very reactive or something, but I go like I said at the beginning, I go into this other mode of just wanting to harmonize everything instantly. And I think also this nonviolent communication, I'm not an expert either. I've heard about it like through friends that are really into it. But I think I do a lot of that sort of naturally. So you're always like talking from your own perspective. You're never putting blame on the other person. Like, I think I developed a lot of these skills as a kid, like between separated parents, and always trying to like neutralize conflicts and tensions and make sure everyone's heard and so on. And I think for me, the challenge in this conflict that I just had, for example, with my friend and neighbor who kind of betrayed my trust, is like, do I dare to just like state the facts of like my truth and what it, but not my truth as in like, oh, I have to like get my side of the thing over, but like, okay, the facts of like, okay, this hurt me, this violated my trust, and then letting the other person or letting the situation just be in a moment of discomfort and disharmony without like instantly wanting to like diffuse that or say like, but it's okay, or like, of course I will, you know, look after your kids, or of course I will, you know, like immediately wanting to make the other person like take their discomfort away of the fact that they hurt me, you know, which is sort of what I instantly want to do. But then I got some reflections like from people close to me, like, it's okay, you know, you can just say it. And then they also have like what was also said before, like giving some time and then allowing each person to like process for a while. And I did this, and it was like very hard for me, like not to immediately try to diffuse the tension or the silence or the disharmony. But then actually in the end, she did come around in a different way, and I felt that like the like I did feel that it worked in a way, like that she was able to understand and also adjusted her behavior like after that. And it wasn't that I was screaming at her or anything, but just to allow for a moment also to acknowledge like the situation as it is. Yeah, I don't know, this is a little bit my challenge, but also how to do that, yeah, in a way without like closing the heart, or like still like staying present and loving in that, but without compromising, I guess, my own yeah, also the responsibility that I have to take care of my situation, or my boundaries, I guess. But like not overdoing that either. Like I think this is something that I'm searching for a balance with.
So basically what I'm hearing is like, it's not always about us being even aggressive or violent against others, but we can kind of take that out on ourselves. Like some people maybe just start shooting at another person, and some people more, you know, take the hurt and turn it inwards instead of just like allowing the energy out. But I guess in both cases, it's about just giving the message in a proportionate way and in a balanced way. Or that would be the ideal. And then we mess up, and that's why we're trying to learn.
Yeah, I also feel like sometimes like a situation has like an arc, and it's like trying to show us something or teach us something, and if we try to resolve it too quickly, either like by lashing out to the other person and like making our or by like trying to harmonize and self-sacrifice too quickly, in a way doesn't allow to be shown like, okay, this is how the chips are falling on the table right now, like what are we going to learn from this, or how do we need to adjust maybe our behavior, our collaboration, our approach, or anything. And then in a way it gets clouded by those attempts to yeah, react in a different ways. And if we are able to just sit for a bit with that disharmony, then it can be quite instructive, I feel.
One thing that stood out to me is when Alex, when you said, by the way, Assalamu alaikum, hi, welcome. That stood out to me was the story that is automatically made. And even when I was trying to tell you guys about it, that I you know, that the reactive part comes from like when someone is talking, this a story is made in my own head already. So that's why the reply isn't what you said, it's what I'm going to reply to you, because what you said, you know, you're in my reactive mind. So I'm going to try to listen, just listen without having an opinion, and then sitting in the discomfort, because I don't sit in the discomfort. And that's why, and then Louisa said something that the story in my head said, I have so much going on inside of me that I cannot hold that space, and that's why I yell, because there's no room for it inside of here. I can't internalize, harmonize anything except what I already am dealing with. And then when something happens, I'm shooting because the other person isn't getting it. And I would say with our situation with my Maya, what's it called, Mr. Narmanahim? I realized she didn't know. And because she didn't know, I was like, it's because you don't know. And that's why this is actually okay. Because you don't know. And if it wasn't intentional, it wasn't anything. And if you knew, it wouldn't be like that. And I was already off the log. I was already off the cliff. She couldn't catch me where I was. I was gone. She couldn't get to me because I was already over it. So, now, inshallah, I'm just going to try to wait. I'm going to just try to wait. I'm going to try to listen, hear, wait, and then go from there, whatever comes out of that. And I would say it was beautiful what happened with us. Alhamdulillah. We met each other in the way we needed to, I think. So inshallah, yes.
You guys didn't share any picture.
Oh, Mehtab, my love. Okay. What happened was we planned to meet, and then I actually prayed because I felt that when we would meet, it was gonna be like, oh, stars in the sky. And I didn't want the good part of me just showing, the good part of you just meeting someone. And I prayed for us to have like a real, I don't forget what it was, but something to where we will grow from it. And whatever happened helped us learn each other and grow and see sides of each other, mirrored sides. And she, mashallah, she handled it so well. She really did. She stayed tough, even though she did. She stood up. She didn't fall. And we didn't end up meeting, but our interaction helped us really meet each other, and yeah, it felt like and that's what we realized, that before we didn't know each other at all.
Such an amazing story.
I think one thing that is coming to me right now is that when we meet people and we have conflicts in the beginning, it's just one thing. But the people who are most closest to us and we have been with from a long time. So they say that the closer you are with the person, the more intimate you are with a person, the more clearly you can see the good and the bad side. And then you choose which part you would want to carry with you. So in relationships, for example, what I'm thinking about right now is like my father. The conflicts that or we carry, and what happens is the situation sometimes is a very small one, right? But you have like earlier unresolved conflicts. So we explode on those little things. Do you get what I'm saying? This is so hard to, navigate that. Am I really getting angry over this little issue or something from the past that I was not able to articulate? I think a bit more reflection on that would really help.
I think what I get from that, Mehtab, is like to some degree related, at least for me, to what Noor was mentioning with kind of can't keep it in thing, that when you're having a person that you've over time had so many small conflicts that haven't had a proper resolution, then it kind of builds up and it's like you're always like almost on the edge of spilling over. So then there's just that like one little, crumbs on the table that pulls you over the edge. Whereas with someone else, when you don't have that cup almost full, it's like, oh, come on, that's just such a little thing. But then I guess there's one thing, which is probably within ourselves, which is to take care of that nervous system hygiene, which I noticed when, the conflict that we mentioned with Alicia, that like within the conflict, I felt like, I'm soon not going to be able to handle this. I don't want to explode myself because it's not my conflict, really. It wasn't even about like us. But I just felt it was getting so big for me to kind of keep that I had to say, I need to take a break. I need to go and just like lie on a cliff right now. I need to go and swim just to kind of neutralize. So that was like my personal thing. And then I think probably in relationships, we need to neutralize the energy between us. Like if it's just always building up and it's never cleared, then that's like just, begging to explode at some point. That's I think, how I feel. If anyone wants to share something still on this, please do. Mic is always open. I'm just thinking to keep the time. If you want, I can just go through the four sort of pillars of nonviolent communication that, like I said, I definitely have not practiced yet more than just, read and sort of, wow, I'm going to try this. But is there someone who wants to say something before we move on? All right. So also here, like I said, please fill in if you feel like something is missing or you want to add on. So yeah, nonviolent communication was developed by Marshall B. Rosenberg, and it's a communication approach that's aimed at fostering compassion and improving interpersonal relationships. And if you really narrow everything down into four components, you can say that they consist of, first of all, observing. So we already, I think, talked about this a bit, but when you're in a conflict, you usually like react on things the way you interpret them rather than maybe how they are. So the first step that's called observing would be to mention things as they are. So for example, if someone has promised to pick you up from work, from school, and they don't do that, observing would be to say, you didn't pick me up as we agreed. Instead of saying, for example, you never pick me up on time. So basically just being like centered in the actual fact. And that already is kind of opening up for a constructive dialogue. And then since we're not just robots, we do recognize kind of the repercussions of what happened. So in a similar situation, you could say like, you know, you don't care about me. I feel like you don't care about me when you don't pick me up. But that's not really actually what we feel. So what we do is we go even deeper into like, what is the actual feeling? And that may be, I felt anxious. I felt hurt. I felt betrayed. And then that also kind of does not put an accusation. It just says, this is how the action makes me feel. And again, very simplified. And please, you know, add flesh to the bones if you have something to say. And then you connect that to what the needs are that are underlying these feelings. So, for example, in this situation where someone's forgot to pick you up, you can say like, I feel hurt because I feel the need for respect for my time. I feel the need for trust and yeah, just consistency, for example. So that is the need that's behind the emotion. And then the kind of roundup to all of this is a request that is the solution sort of thing to the whole thing, which would be, you know, instead of just saying like, don't you dare be late ever again, or don't you dare forget to pick me up. It would be rather from a kind of asking perspective. You're not commanding, you're not pushing, but you're just saying, would you be willing to, for example, set an alarm on your clock next time so that you wouldn't forget picking me up? And then it's kind of up to the other person if they want to fulfill that part. And you can't anyways force anyone. So that's just lifting off also the, I don't know, pushing aspect of it into a more open request. I feel like I've totally massacred, you know, a book into a very short thing. And I wonder, is there something that you kind of got out of it or that you want to maybe add to it?
I wanted to ask if we can role play so that we can learn how to do it now, because that situation happened to me and I see where I went wrong.
Hey, 100%. So, the exact same situation, you were not picked up as per agreement.
It wasn't the first time, and I was wondering how to handle it best. And the first thing I said, so where I went wrong was the first thing, because I was like, I'm not even gonna talk to that person. I'll just say I'll talk to you later. But the first thing I said was, I'm disappointed. Bam, wrong. So what I should have said was, you told me you were gonna come. Ooh, I was so mad. You told me you were going to come. I'm so mad I can't even get it. What am I supposed to say? You said you were supposed to come at 2 hours ago. Okay, that's number one. You were supposed to come 2 hours or like you were supposed to come. You told me that you were gonna drop off something and come right away, and you said the word just. So I assumed you were gonna come back right away. And I observe, and then what What was the second one?
So you observe what kind of didn't happen as, you know, in this situation as expected or as agreed, maybe. So yeah,
Mhm.
you told me you were gonna come. You told me you're just gonna drop something off and come, right? And that didn't happen. Maybe. Feel free to
Okay.
anyone else.
Yes, and what was the second him?
And then there's the feelings, how that made you feel.
That made me feel like you do not respect my time.
How did that actually make you feel? Did that make you feel sad? Did that make you feel
Oh, that made me feel mad,
mad?
annoyed. Yeah, annoyed. That was annoying.
That made me feel annoyed.
That made me feel annoyed. That made
Yeah.
me feel mad. Yeah, that made me feel neglected
Mm-hmm.
and very belittled. That made me feel belittled, neglected, and ignored.
Okay. Yeah. Now we're talking like, you know, deep emotions and what is the need behind these emotions? What is the thing that got unfulfilled, or what was the basic fundamental need behind them?
Well, yeah, to trust your word. Can you say something and do it?
Hmm.
And what I'll typically say is like, I didn't ask you to say that. I didn't ask you to. You could have told me that you, wait, my need is, or like those emotions. I got lost, you see.
Yeah, maybe like, you know, you already said you felt betrayed, you felt belittled. I've got, you know, a need to be respected in my time, respected in my word, and respected in my commitments. I have the need to be able to trust. There could be many things.
Yes. Yeah, to trust you, what you said, you know? Then, yeah, 'cause I'm just thinking of everything I typically would say. But I have a need to want to trust your word. If you know, like you're my friend, like I just want to trust your word. What's the fourth one?
And yeah, and I think even like without even mixing them in, I think it goes back to your needs even more, even like regardless of them. It's just your need for what does that trust entail? It, you know, it entails that you can plan your day. It entails you can count on certain things happening like the way that have, I don't know, agreed on. And then the fourth thing was the request, which is not like a demand, but just like, you know, for the future. Like, would you be able to give me a heads up if your plans change? Like, if you need to do something else in between, would you want to call me?
If you want to, in the future, if you could please um, let me know that something came up. Okay, so first, because I see that everything I'm saying, that I want to explain it. So we don't need to do all that. We just need to say those like 4 or 5 sentences. The first sentence, the first thing that happens is, I thought you were going to come at so-and-so time. You told me you were just gonna drop it off. That makes me feel like that I'm forgotten about. And when I feel forgotten about, that makes me feel, you know, like I'm nothing to you. And I want to be like, if I meant something to you, or if I'm,
I
if
think
the,
even here, the point is to take it even away from the personal, like from the other person. You just go like really back to yourself. I feel belittled. I feel, you know, those things that you said like about yourself. Like I felt, yeah, I felt, you know, forgotten. I felt belittled. I feel, so that we don't project on the other one, like not, you know, projecting what they may feel, but just like, you know, when you didn't show up on the time that we agreed, I felt small. I felt hurt. And that's because I
That's
have a need of,
because I have a need of, I don't want to, it's not respected, or I guess regarded. I have a need to be regarded.
I have a need to feel that commitments are honored. I have a need to plan my day, and I have other things to do as well. I'm just talking about my own perspective.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's true though. I have the same thing. I plan my day. People think I don't do anything because I make my own time, but I plan my day. So they just oh whatever. And to me it's not whatever, you know. I'm planning my day. I'm making time for you. And then so I made time for you. And next time, please let me know if plans come up. I'm
Yeah,
still not gonna see you right now.
could you, would you want to let me know if your plans change next time, if that happens?
Yeah. Would you want to let me know if plans change next time it happens? Oh, it happens so many times. I don't even want to see her. I'm done seeing her, really. But okay, all right, we got the gist of it.
Yeah, that was useful. I really think, you know, I don't know, Alex, if you've used this technique, if you feel like, you know, you said you're kind of already having it as part of your maybe everyday behavior, but I also feel just like you, Noor, that it's like, oh, what was next? I'm kind of struggling to just, you know, have it feel natural, but yeah, super valuable.
I mean, actually, I have never really properly studied it. I didn't know that these were precisely the official steps, but I think this thing of like focusing on the facts and then really speaking from your own perspective and how you are affected and never putting something on the other person, like these are definitely things that I just always do. And this thing of then like trying to be clear about, okay, what are the actual requests or needs or changes in behavior that we could propose for next time. Yeah, I think I do sort of do that. Plus that part of like making the other person feel heard and like repeating their thing back to them. Also the area where I live in Portugal, and there are like a lot of alternative and kind of conscious communities and stuff around it where I also have friends, and I feel that just generally in those circles the way of speaking, not always, definitely not always, but there is this tendency of like a lot of emphasis on listening and a lot of emphasis on, yeah, um, like acknowledging your own triggers and uh, really speaking from your experience rather than from a kind of shoulds or a kind of, yeah, accusations on the other person. So I feel that also just by living here the last few years, that and having some friends that are more, yeah, speaking in that way, even if we don't have conflicts, I think it also kind of yeah, helps. Yeah. But it's interesting to hear them really as these 4 sentences, because then you can actually keep it very short. You don't have to have a big discussion. And for me, it always helps to really, yeah, what I was saying before, like this feeling of like, okay, what are like the most precise and truthful, yeah, facts, feelings also being facts, like of the situation, and can I like name those without adding like layers to them, without adding colors or flavors or too many things on top. And sometimes it helps me like to sit on my own, or like I like to do qigong, and sometimes, for example, this helps me in any kind of decision or situation I'm in to settle all the thoughts and all the things I'm putting on top, to like, okay, this is actually the sequence of things of this specific situation. Um, but then, yeah, communicating it to the other person is not always easy.
Yeah, and And also like these 4 steps are just my sort of, you know, own kind of concoction or sort of brewing down. So there may be things that are left out or, you know, not fully as the author intended, but I think also like just, you know, it's great to do this kind of role play and get those 4 sentences. Maybe they can lurk behind there somewhere. And I guess it would take a very mature also listener, like you said, Alex, you know, many people in the community that you're living in probably already have worked a lot with themselves, could probably, you know, receive a message. Noor, you mentioned May was strong and still standing after receiving, yeah, firm firm lessons. So it does take an involved listener to, I guess, also hear things without starting to react. So that part probably we also have to practice, like how do we receive someone's hurt and criticism. I especially need to work on that part. I learned from the previous days. Yeah.
You mentioned something. Sometimes like parents do that, you know. I feel like you don't care about me, and that kind of like doesn't help with the the solution, and you don't know how to respond to that, you know. And then like you don't want to say I understand. Yeah, what would you say? I understand that you feel that you might feel that I don't care about you, but which what happened last time, but I prioritize my thing than what you made, which wasn't helpful. Like he stopped talking to me for a week after that, you know. So what do you do when someone, you know, and you're trying to like somebody's talking to you, but then they use that line, that you don't care about me, and then you don't know how to make them yeah. What do you
Does anyone have any good medicine?
The question was, what do you do when someone says you
like
don't care about me?
Yeah, I feel like you don't care about me, like you're trying to resolve something. You're actually, it kind of ends, he wants his way. So to get his way, he says, I feel like you don't care about me if I pick my way. So it's like, I want to still go my way, but I want you to know that I care about you.
What
How
I
do
would
you try to
yeah.
reach a solution without making the person go, feel like you don't care?
I always think of, sorry, look, I always think of what do I want to hear, and or what I would say is, I do care about you, and these are the reasons. In that moment, I was wrong. I did whatever the reason was, the truth was like, if the time got over me, if I forgot, whatever the truth is. So I do care about you. These are the reasons, a few little reasons, and then this is the reason why I didn't show up. I'm sorry.
So that's technically, if I understand you, Noor, that's like in a situation where you've actually neglected something, like a promise or a commitment. Am I right?
Yes, is that what happened, May, or no?
Yeah, it's just like, it's like someone's trying to get their way. So instead of, I'm just like, I want to do something, but the other as my authoritative figure, he wants to say no. But instead of having a dialogue about it, the conversation ends by him saying, I feel like you don't care about me, and then khalas, like, and I don't want to just do what he wants me to do, because I feel like you know, I I'm in my right to live the way I want, and it's just his control over me, which I feel like I want to change. I can't change it, but that sometimes like that makes it hard to talk to somebody when they tell you, I feel like you don't care about me, because you're like, لا بس I want you to see me too, you know, and that's it.
I mean, it sounds, sorry, Noor, go ahead.
No, I just want to say one thing that you guys said was I think that takes talking to someone who is mature and working on it in some way somehow. So if they're not even in that ground level, then what, like, I don't know where it could go. But that's all I know. I really, Louisa, please take us home.
I just thought, you know, thanks, Noor. I just thought maybe May, what you just said is pretty much the essence of it. Like, I hear you. I'm sad that you feel that way, that I don't care about you. It's not true. However, I have the right to do life as I want to do it, or, you know, whatever you feel. Like, I want to live life this way. It has nothing to do with how I see you or how I love you. And only you would probably know how to like communicate that, or like Noor said, maybe with some people it's going to be hard, and it is a form of emotional kind of, I don't know if it's gaslighting or manipulation, but it is a form of, you know, trying to get you to do something by pushing you into that space of guilt or shame. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me at the same time. That's beautiful. Yeah, I don't know, like, I think that's everyone's struggle at one point or another in life when, you know, talking about parents or authorities, whatever the form and authority may be, like, how do we keep those boundaries with respect and with love? And I don't have an answer like how to do that, but probably, you know, I again, how you said it was so sort of truthful, and it was so you.
Yeah, maybe I can share a little bit. I really resonate like with what you were saying. My also because like my mom, I had like about 2 years ago, I lived on her property. She lives mostly in the Netherlands, but she comes here a lot in Portugal, and we had like quite some pretty big conflict the first couple of years. It was also during COVID. And one of the things that she would keep coming with was, I feel you don't respect me. I feel you don't care about me. This was like a big thing coming for her. And at first, I just really didn't get it. And I felt like, you know, yeah. And I also felt like you were saying, like, I just have my life. These are my choices. Like, I need my space. Or it was also, yeah. But yeah, for me also, like to what Alicia was putting in the chat about not caring, or like this inner child thing, for me was also just like to come to see like, oh yeah, this is like her pain, is this thing of not being respected. And I started to realize that a lot of conflicts that she speaks about that she has in the workplace, often the sentence that she keeps repeating also is like, I don't feel respected, or I don't feel seen, or I don't feel. And I just started realizing that actually it really doesn't have so much to do with me. Of course it has to do with me, and I'm her daughter, so it's like extra big for her when it's regarding me. But then also realizing that sort of the root of that hurt or that pain is actually not some, I mean, I'm triggering it maybe with something I'm saying or what I'm doing, but it's not fully my responsibility to, or maybe even at all, to resolve that for her, or to, yeah. And maybe it isn't even resolvable, you know, like maybe I can't even comfort her or say something that will secure that for her. Yeah, I don't know, like just to also not have unrealistic expectations of being able to take away certain fears or, I don't know, or traumas from our parents. But like lately, actually, through the encouragement of Sheikh Ahmed, I've really been trying to improve also my relationship with my mom. And one thing that I'm trying to do is like just in moments outside of interactions that are about something specific, or where there is maybe already some tension or something, just in other moments, like trying to just randomly kind of affirm that I care about her or that I love her, or just, yeah, in sort of also moments where maybe it doesn't cost me as much as, whereas if it's like on a tension point, or when she wants me to do something and I don't want to do it in that moment or so on, then it's already somehow triggering or affecting me or compromising maybe how I want to do things or live my life. Whereas if I manage to choose these other, I mean, I'm just starting and practicing this, but I noticed that like she immediately lights up, and I think it means like so much more to her compared to like how little effort it actually costs me to do it. Yeah, but yeah, when the like this, I also shared this quote about the boundary that I really love. This, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, Prentice Hemphill. I really love their work. They actually just published their first book. I haven't read it yet, about healing as well. But yeah, this thing of how to come, with parents, I think it's very, like you also have your own integrity, and like it's so close. It's just not easy, like how to. I mean, I can't say anything useful on it, but it's just very challenging. Also,
That was very useful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Just affirm that I care about him in other times, so that when we have an argument, he'll still know that I care about him, because I do it on and constantly. So that's very helpful.
Very, for me as well, very mature words, very kind of good reminders to have those kind of fruitful interactions outside of the tense moments, outside of the reactive moments. And then that makes it kind of stable enough to handle the storms as well. So you have that kind of firm foundation and that respect and trust, and then you can kind of let it be a bit chaotic and stormy, and then you have that to fall down on. So that is a very good reminder. Thank you everyone for like all these super valuable insights. I think we're gonna have to close off pretty soon because we're wanting to keep the boundary of time for everyone. I would have suggested a penning. I don't know how you feel about it. I can either just read the poem and then we pen afterwards. Alicia, what do you say? Because you're the boss in disguise here in the dark. What does thumbs up mean? Thumbs up for poem, or thumbs up for poem, or penning as well? Poem, excellent. So I'll read a poem by Hazrati Rumi, and then we'll conclude the session. I've tried to find something on conflict as well. Every war and every conflict between human beings has happened because of some disagreement about names. Every war and every conflict between human beings has happened because of some disagreement about names. It's such an unnecessary foolishness, because just beyond the arguing, there's a long table of companionship set and waiting for us to sit down. One moment, I lost the poem there. Just beyond the arguing, there's a long table of companionship set and waiting for us to sit down. What is praised is one, so the praise is one too. Many jugs being poured into a huge basin. all religions, all this singing, one song. The differences are just illusion and vanity. Illusion and vanity. Sunlight looks a little different on this wall than it does on that wall, and a lot different on this other one, but it's still one light. We've borrowed these clothes, these time and space personalities, from a light, and when we praise, we're pouring them back in. So if you feel inspired to pen afterwards, by all means, share in the group as always. And I agree, very powerful to hear everything that's been said today. May I wonder, could you please type it in the chat too? What are you referring to? Oh, the poem. Yes, I'll post it in the group so that also Mehtab, who left and so on, can read it. So thank you so much, everyone, and be well, take care, and see you soon. Lots of love. Salam.